Rivka, would you start with a word this evening, please?
Sure. Yeah, I will. May we take a moment to reflect on our shared values today that unite us, even though we all come from different perspectives, beliefs, and backgrounds. We all share that shared aspirations for protecting and preserving our natural environment and being good stewards of the land. Today, may we work together in unity and cooperation in order to achieve the greater good for all of us and take inspiration from the incredible potential of every single person in this room and our ability to create a brighter future for many generations to come. Thank you.
Roll call. Tim, are you here?
Last I checked, yes.
Rivka,
I think so.
myself.
Thank
How are
you.
we supposed to do a roll call?
That's
I mean,
perfectly
that's-
acceptable.
all right.
I just
All right.
need to mark it
I
in
know
my
this
sheet.
is new, so I'm just want to get it right. Otherwise,
We don't have to
will
vote
correct me.
president or something like that.
Nah, it's
Like I said, we're new enough at this to the whole roll call thing. Have you had a chance to look over the minutes? If so, I would appreciate a motion to
I
approve.
move to accept the minute
Is there support?
as written.
Perfect. All those in favor, say aye.
fine.
Opposed? They are approved. How about the agenda? Any changes to the agenda? Oh, perfect.
I'll make that motion.
Sirs. Moved and supported. We have approved. Is there any public comment this evening?
Yes.
You know, I'm just, my name is Rich Houdeman with Consumers Energy, and I'd be happy to just chat a little bit. But you know, I want to be respectful for your meeting. I have to go to Talmadge, but I'm here till 6:30, so whatever works for your decision there, Mr. Chair. I'm able to.
Well, if you have a 2-minute, we'll give you 2 minutes. How's that?
That's
So if you need more than that, then we'll.
I'll just come over here real quick so you don't have to strain. My name is Rich Houdeman. I'm your community affairs manager from Consumers Energy. I have Muskegon, Ottawa, and Newaygo counties. And I'm kind of blessed to have about every kind of generation asset we have in the company in my area between dams, solar, natural gas, and coal. So we are going to be shutting down our coal plant next year, but you may have heard, in West Olive. And I really think it's important that we develop a good relationship. And I really want this group to understand the work that we're doing, because it's very environmentally impactful. I think we're going to do our best to leave it better than we found it. And that's hard to do, right, when you come in with a coal plant, but we want to do our just transition well. And I think we can absolutely communicate our actions to you and to let you know what's going on. And Natalie said, you know, geez, we may even have an invasive species project by the Pigeon Creek that may be something we can collaborate. Great, you know, so we just want to develop a relationship, but it's shame on me for not saying hi sooner. But you know, we're early enough in the process. We really won't start tearing down the plant in earnest until probably, you know, fall or maybe even spring of 2026, but we'll close in about a year from now. And so that's that. So we can absolutely talk more down the road as we take this journey, but you know, we are just really trying to make our system more reliable. The last 4 years in Michigan have been the windiest on record. And so we're putting up things like iron poles. We're doing some underground pilots. We're doing things like that. But we also, you know, we want to be aware of our environmental impact. And I think, you know, statewide, we've been doing that. Environmental is actually in our group now, which I think is excellent. So I think that may even just increase our ability to work together a little more with conservation districts like yours. So I really just wanted to say hi. You know, I know folks are a little worried about the power going out after Campbell closes. We really have a great strategy, I think. I think the Michigan Public Service Commission agrees, and we did buy a gas plant in Covert to backfill Campbell, and we will be adding a 250 megawatt solar project up in Muskegon that'll come online toward the end of 2025, early 26. So we know solar doesn't work all the time, but we do think the wind and solar profiles that we have will be helpful to boost the fossil fuel plants that we plan to maintain into the future. So, but we will be coal free by next year. So that's really all I have. I'm going to hang around for a while. If Mr. Chair, if you have any questions for me, if anybody does, I'm happy to answer those or get back with this team. But I'd like to just maintain communication as we go forward. We'll probably be graded and seated at Campbell probably around 2030, 2029, somewhere in there. So
Do you have a business card?
I do. I gave one to Natalie. So she has my contact information she can share, and yeah, I'll be available if you'd like to chat.
Okay.
I just have one comment, and it's more of a personal comment than, why do we keep going to the country for all these solar farms, which that jerks me a little because it's not a farm. You're taking away a farm. So to call them solar farms is a little stickler to a farmer.
Thank you.
But you look at you go up and down the streets and you got the Costco's and the Amazon plants and the Steelcase plants, all this rooftop in town that's already burned up and used and is not a natural resource. And why can't we put solar things on top of already structures that that would be very, very less invasive than coming out here in the country and burning up more farmland.
I think it's a fair question. I think there are instances where rooftop solar does make sense, and it does happen. The rooftop of the LC Walk Arena or Trinity Health Arena in Muskegon now has solar panels. It typically only generates enough power to kind of deal with whatever its service. There isn't enough power that is generated really to help you and me. It's basically to help that facility. And that's kind of what it's designed to do. I think as far as being out in the country, in the Muskegon instance, that land wasn't great. That worked out pretty well. It was pretty low grade soil. They were growing some alfalfa there. But so that was just one instance. That was one property owner, and that worked out really well. I think we want to go where we're wanted. The average age of a farmer is 60 years old. If a farmer has 1,000 acres, 1,500 acres, and they want to keep their land, and we can be a fixed crop for them at 400 acres, and that works out, maybe it's great. Solar's not forever, unlike a housing development. I know Rebecca's put out that, you guys have lost 30,000 acres of farmland here in the last 5 years. Solar is today, but it may not be for tomorrow. So I'm not saying it's perfect. It's something that we're looking at today. It's probably going to be another 25-year generation thing, but the way the energy, it may not be what we want 30 years from now, and that land can go back to farming or whatever the landholder would like to do. We're not buying the property, we're leasing it in most cases, so the landowner does have discretion. We have decommissioning plans for those sites. They're not forever. I guess I'll just leave it at that, but I understand your concern, and I wish it were more perfect. We're trying to get into good situations. We don't have any projects where we're using the state siting requirements. Where we want to go where we're wanted right now. And we're just kind of taking it a year at a time, but that's kind of where we are.
Do you have any idea what kind of pressure you put on us farmers when you offer $1,000 an acre, more for 150?
I know there's more people out there than just us two. I know that solar is there are a lot of different agencies out there putting pressure on landowners. I understand that it's probably very difficult. I don't,
You know, we can save the environment and starve the people. What did we gain?
we figure that if we do our project, we would take about 0.5 to 1% of ag land in the state lower peninsula if we fill out our goals. But that's today's goals. Tomorrow's goals may change, and if we change, would probably be less. There are a lot of different rules that the EPA is bringing forward. So we may have to do more with carbon sequestration, which is very expensive, but we may have to put carbon sequestration on the back end of a gas plant. That would reduce the amount of solar we need to develop, but it's just expensive for our customers. And it takes up a lot of power of the plant itself. And I won't try to bore you with all that, but we do have a lot of challenges between the state and federal government with the rules and regulations that we have to abide by. We do want to have a greener planet, but how we would do it versus how we're told to do it, sometimes they don't always aren't ideal, but we're just trying to do the best we can to minimize our impact on the folks we interact with and our customers' bottom line. Midwest utility rates are high. So, it's great when you can run air conditioning all the time in Florida. You can keep the rates really low, but usually, that's what really, when you have to build out your system for a couple weeks a year where you run your air conditioning, it's expensive for the utility to do that. But in Florida, if you run your air conditioning 12 months or 10 months out of the year, you're buying a lot of power from the utility. Yeah, I'm not going to go down. I could go down on and on about it. I won't, but I appreciate your comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
There's no one online.
Good, thanks, I didn't even check.
Just recording today.
Well, what do we have for agency updates? Do we have one? Or are we?
Yep, so we'll do just the highlights that we have been doing, and then I'll give a report, and then we have a monthly program highlight from our CPP this.
Is there any questions on the staff reports from the board? We can jump right to your highlight.
I have one comment, just because I'm sure this has been considered, but we have a lot of staff that are very busy, and it's 18 pages of staff reports, and I don't know if they create those every single month. I'm wondering if each of the board members read those in total. I did scan through them. I'm just putting it out there. Is that the best use of time to create that detailed single board meeting? I don't know. It's just something I'm considering. Is that, they already do a lot of reporting for grant reports and different things. I'm just throwing an idea out there. Is there a better way we utilize staff time to know what they're doing, keep tabs on it, have highlights, but not have 18 pages of staff reports in a board, every board meeting. So don't need comment or discussion on that right now necessarily. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know how staff feels, but it was just something I was thinking of as I was reading through those.
They used to be longer.
I just said I didn't need comments, Ben. Back with that. And I did see the 2 people wanted promotion of things in what they need from the board. That's what I looked at. That's what he needs from the board. Tracy wants promotion of something. I don't remember what. What does she need promotion of? And then Karen wants promotion of her native plant thing from the board.
There's a packet.
That was the only comment I had on staff reports, other than good job, staff.
Thank you.
We can, I guess, now that we have a new director, maybe it's time to look at that again. As far as if it's, yes, it is a lot of paper and a lot, but so maybe we look at that over the next couple months.
Sure, it's for the benefit of the board, so I would leave it to the board's discretion.
My question would be how long, ask them an average, what's it take to prepare that report? Is that a 5 minute, 10 minute, or an hour?
Probably depends on the month. I would say maybe 10 to 15 minutes. If you've done a lot that month, it might be longer. Is that accurate?
Yeah, probably.
Me compiling them, it takes longer.
I get that. Like I said, we used to print them. It used to be, it was like, oh, yeah, so,
Well, they are.
yeah.
There's
But-
18 pages in mine.
Yeah, so I mean, like I
Which is
said,
fine, if it's good and it serves the purpose and it's not time consuming. I was just reading through it going, I bet every single board member doesn't read every single word of these reports every board meeting. So it's just why I brought it up. So carry on.
all right,
Okay, let's do staff highlight, something you accomplished. Ben, you wanna go first?
Got $1 million today. Not like a big deal or anything, but got $1 million today. I'll leave it at that.
Low hanging fruit, I was just like.
The first thing that came up in my head was the $1 million. So
wonder what the rest of this.
Make your eyes roll
Not bad. I should have done him last.
Move to be done review first.
I've done a lot of outreach events this month. We did a water quality forum presentation earlier this month, and something that came out of that was that we connected with Alan Baca, and we are planning to do a 5-day run of news stories about stuff that Ottawa Conservation District is doing. To be like kind of filmed end of May, beginning of June-ish, kind of more focusing on the water quality issues. And so she suggested doing like 5 2 to 3 minute little things, one a day for a week. We wanted to highlight irrigation uniformity, our water quality, like more E. coli things specifically, and then also septic things, just a bunch of different stuff that's more focusing on the water, groundwater and surface water stuff. So that is coming up and we're excited for that. So we're just kind of finding some farmers who might be interested, who've worked with us, who might be willing or interested in like saying some good things about us as well on camera.
It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah,
Cool.
so it worked out really well, and Alan's been great to work with so far. So
Please ping me when those are done because we can reshare them out.
for sure, yeah.
MSC.
Yeah, we just had the meeting like a week or so ago, so we're kind of in the process of getting all the information.
Because April, everyone's in the field, is a very heavy planning month for me, so I took a lot of time to plan the plant sale and the rainbow workshop and pollinate, of course, and then the composting workshop I'm putting together in Kent County in July. So lots of planning last month.
I've had a lot of interactions with different people about invasive species. I get several calls a day about our strike team program. And then I also gave a presentation on European frogbit at the Michigan Lakes and Streams Association conference. And there were about like 60 people in attendance. So just spending a good chunk of my time talking to people about invasive species.
That's a nice turnout for a breakout session. Is that right? Oh, that's a good number of people in the room.
Mm-hmm. I changed it for next month. Alex,
program highlight or just?
just something that you accomplished.
We are our application for irrigation uniformity, the only one we had for this sign up just passed the quality assurance review, so that contract will be getting obligated hopefully within the next 2 weeks or so. So that's for an irrigation water management plan and updated sprinkler system for center pivot. So we're excited about that because it was a big learning curve for us in writing those plans, and we hope to be able to use those to have an impact on the groundwater issue in the county moving forward.
It's really exciting.
Which I guess leads right into
The program
update, or
highlight
do
of
you
the
have
day.
your update first?
I can give my update quick and then you can do that. You want? I just want to say it. So a big chunk of my April was with the tree sale. And I'll give you some more financial report later, but we had 18 volunteers for the tree wrapping day and it went very smoothly and we were all incredibly proud of how well it went for like our first year doing it like that. And then the day of we had 6 volunteers. So it was really encouraging when one of our goals is to increase a volunteer program over the next year to have like that kind of turnout. That was really rewarding. We had about 43 day of sales. So that's outside of pre-orders that we gave out that day. It was about $3,000. And then, as you all know, we had a substantial number of trees left over. Since then, we have sold roughly 866 trees. And then I just sold 200 more to Ottawa County Parks today. We gave some to Critter Barn for an event that they had, so that they could give them out to people. So that's exciting and a really good way to get them on the landscape. And then we have about 2,500 left. And after a couple of contacts that are still interested in buying them at half price, we're probably going to start donating them. So if you have any contacts that are doing any type of, outreach event or project where native tree seedlings would be useful, let us know. Let's just give them to them, because at this point, we've broken even and they've been sitting out there for some time. So more than broken even. So this last month I focused a lot on our NRCS programs that the district staff do. I spent a lot of time with Sharcy and staff learning more about those programs. I had some NACD reporting that I did for the first time. That went really well. And I've been training Muriel on reimbursements and reporting. She had a lot of reporting due in April that she did a great job on. We also received some GLRI funding that I told you guys about the last board meeting. So we executed our state MISGP grant and our GLRI grant are both being executed. So I was managing that. And then I found a better way to track our match for all of our grants. And I was really proud of that I cleaned that up. So that was what I did this week.
Great.
All right, Alex.
Now we segued into
Now
Alex.
Alex's program highlight on RCPP.
Yeah, so RCPP, Regional Conservation Partnership Program, we're in year 3 right now. So I figured it's time to be in here and give you guys an update on the successes that we've had. So I put together some slides kind of talking about the projects we've been working on and the metrics we've been able to collect to kind of highlight that. So you can go ahead. Just the logo, Farmland and Water Quality Conservation Initiative. So I was not involved in the writing of this project.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
But I think the overall goals, like, they've held true throughout the project and certainly the priorities. So protecting ground and surface water quality, improving aquatic and wildlife habitat, and then preserving manageable farmland. So I'm glad to say that, even though we're 3 years in, those are still, our priorities. And I don't think those are ever going to change anytime in the near future. So with that work, the focus of this was to use partnerships throughout the duration of the program to both support our work capacity and also provide more of an economic backbone to the project. So if you go to the next slide, you can look at some of the partnerships that we've got here. There might be a few missing from here, but these are the folks we work with really consistently. And they've supported other programs too. So like Eagles funding our 319, which is an astronomical amount of match for this project. Ottawa County Farm Bureau, they've been putting out press releases, emails, newsletters to their supporters to help our outreach campaigns. Ottawa County Ag Preservation Board has been instrumental in connecting with farmers on that front. So a lot of good things coming from our partners, and looking into the future, we've talked about how do we expand that to include partners with other skill sets or maybe cash funding or stuff like that. So you can go to the next slide. So I think everyone here is relatively familiar with the NRCS programs like EQIP or CSP. RCPP functions along the same lines. So they provide funding for financial assistance to do on-the-ground conservation projects. And then it also pays our staff time to go out and develop conservation plans, to meet with landowners, to provide outreach education, and to do the conservation planning necessary to achieve the goals that were earlier in the presentation of protecting ground and surface water quality, manageable habitat, and then farmland preservation. So this is how RCPP functions in a nutshell. Next. So we're just wrapping up our third sign up. We only had one contract this year, and I'll explain why that was in a moment, but I want to take a moment just to highlight, the metrics that we've seen. So with only 20% of the practices implemented throughout the contracts that we have, we've seen 6,200 pounds of nitrogen a year removed from our watersheds, 1,500 pounds of phosphorus, and then the BOD load, which is biological oxygen demand. Those are, that's a measure of nutrients, or more like sediment in the soil, and how that sediment in the watershed and how that impacts the available water for the available oxygen. I cannot speak for, macroinvertebrates, fish, other aquatic life. And then of course there's the sediment numbers for the year. So what's cool about that being only at the 20% mark is that these same practices that are implemented that still have more years in their contract are going to continue to hit these numbers. And we're only going to be adding conservation practices throughout the county for the next couple of years. So those are set to grow. We have about $150,000 left for contracts, and I want to speak to that a little bit. So we spent $700,000 in our first year, and then whatever the difference is to make it 1.8 in our second year. And we focused on all the conservation practices available that NRCS really had to offer as kind of a blanket approach. And then we got closer to the end of the program, we started thinking, well, this was geared towards groundwater, and we need to focus more funds and time on addressing the groundwater issue that's not going away. And so we decided to earmark the remaining funds for irrigation upgrades so that we're using less groundwater, as most of the systems are pumping from aquifers. And so last year we only had one uniformity test done, which meant that we only had one landowner that we could put through the application process, because we can't submit an application without proof that their system is deficient. So throughout the winter, we ramped up our outreach. We had an event that was geared towards both farmland preservation and irrigation uniformity. And we've got a couple of landowners already who are interested. We just need to schedule site visits to get out there and test their irrigation systems for uniformity. Off the top of my head, I think it's about 75%. If you're below 75% of a uniform application across your fields, you're eligible for upgrades. So that's the number we're looking for. So that kind of explains a little bit of background as to why, we only had one contract coming up this year. You go to the next slide. I want to highlight just a couple projects really quick that I think show the work we've done pretty well. This project is a dairy farm that had a wide variety of resource concerns. They're dairy that also is implementing a grazing system. So this picture here is their pasture, relatively poor. So that was one thing we were able to include in their plan, was pasture renovation. If you go to that next picture, they've got a lot of stream crossings. And as you can see, a lot of erosion, a lot of sediment and nutrients getting into that water. So we contracted some stream crossings to better address that. And I think there's one more picture. With their grazing system for a dairy, it's unique in that these animals need to go back to the parlor every day, multiple times a day, which is different than your standard grazing system for beef. So with the soils on this property, we're seeing a high degree of erosion, which runs right into the stream once again. So we planned out some trails and walkways that are geotextile under gravel to mitigate that erosion. This was our biggest contract, about $400,000 overall. We're scaling back on projects of that capacity because we felt like, you know, we addressed a lot of things and we wouldn't discourage people from applying that, but that was a lot of money for one project. Not a negative thing in any way, but when we're looking at the groundwater problem as a whole in the county, you know, redirecting that towards irrigation, I think is gonna be the best use of our funds going forward. So that was one project. This is a livestock pipeline layout that the engineering team designed. So this is gonna allow them to graze throughout their pasture system and have their animals get back to the parlor to be milked and really improve both their pasture condition, animal health, and then with the trails and walkways there for water quality. So that was one project. And this is the site work that we did in preparation for the irrigation water management plan that we submitted this year for a landowner. He's got a center pivot, and this is us out there doing the uniformity test. So it's really straightforward. It's just time consuming. But we have these fiberglass stakes and solo cups on the top of them that are glued on there. And we let the center pivot run a full pass completely over the cups. And then we go back and we measure the water in each cup. And then MSU Extension has software they developed that we can plug in those numbers and it spits out a uniformity number that shows us where they're at. So it's relatively straightforward. It's just a time-consuming process, but it makes a meaningful impact on these irrigation systems. So that's the second one that we have highlighted. And in relation to that, we didn't find that we were able to really target this area particularly well in the center of the county where the most aquifer drawdown is occurring. But it's something that's in discussion going into the future as we, you know, consider the future of this program or other funding sources or other programs, whether it's the watershed programs. How do we get resources to that area to deal with the groundwater problem? I think there's just one more slide here. I put a slide in about the farmland preservation. Becky heads up that component. So you want to share where we're at with the projects for easements through RCPP, but it's been I guess it's been a challenging journey to say the least. There's been a number of surprises, but you know, we're getting farmland preserved one way or the other. So
yeah, it could be a long story depending on how much detail you want to go into this, but we won't. So I'll just start with, as you guys probably already know, we closed on one property using RCP funds so far. That was in March. That's 92 acres. As Alex alluded to, that project did not at all go the way that it was supposed to when we signed the contract. Ultimately, it was a very negative feeling pathway to some really positive outcomes. The sediment reductions that are going to occur on those 92 acres are huge.
Off the charts, huge.
Huge, huge sediment reductions. Ultimately, landowner, while it was a wonky pathway, has been very cooperative, you know, and it all worked out luckily very, very well. We have our two more properties that we're hopefully going to expend the funds on, but because of those same complications that we had with this first property, we have to navigate those same issues with these next two. One should be fairly easy peasy. That's 36 acres within that pink hotspot, next to some already preserved land. That one should be pretty cut and dried and not be problematic. The last property that we're going to spend the very last remaining dollars or hope to of the easement money on, we have yet to determine if we need to walk away from that project with this funding or if we'll be able to use it. It really depends upon what type of practice they're going to require us to include in a permanent easement deed, which even saying those words are ridiculous. We took one pass at it and we struck out on that, and I'm glad that we did because it was terrible. Katie DeRocha and Alex and the rest of the team came up with another idea. I floated that out. I have not heard back yet, but we're getting the appraisal done. I've prepped the landowner that if they want to, you know, relook at this and walk away from this funding, we don't have to stay on this path. If we decide not to use the remaining $67,000 on this property, we can transition it to practices and expend it that way fairly handily. Which doesn't make me super happy because I want to use it on easements, but I don't want to use it on easements that, you know, hamstring every generation from here till the end of time to putting in a silly, you know, conservation cover where it shouldn't be, you know, type of thing. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. So, yep, RCPP for easements within a CCA is no bueno. RCPP for easements in the competitive pool is what we need to do next time.
Yeah, so just to, I guess, speak on that, like with the CCA, I forget what a CCA stands
Critical
for.
conservation area,
Conservation core.
critical conservation. Area.
Okay, there's specifications for how the funding is supposed to be used, which our project had over the entire project, where there's cost share funds for practices, or as we found out, funds for easements. And those two things were addressing wildlife habitat or addressing surface water quality. And so within our cost share practices, we didn't run into this until we started the irrigation, because all of our projects in some way addressed surface water quality or made an improvement to wildlife habitat. So when we did the irrigation water management plan, we also had to include cover crops in there to make sure that we explicitly addressed surface water quality. And that's what we ran into with the easements, was requirements for those, which is so tough with an easement.
Well, there are requirements that were instituted after the program agreement was signed off by every official, and it was a fully executed agreement, and NRCS changed the rules, literally. And we all had to re-sign it if we wanted money. Everyone signed, Gary Lee signed off, everybody. I know, it's shocking. That's how it works. So that's the annoying part. So,
but yeah, so RCPP, you know, in the competitive non-CCA pool for easements makes a lot of sense. The CCA in our setting in Ottawa County, not quite as much. But yeah, it's been a challenging program, but we've done a lot and we've accomplished, you know, a ton in 2 years. So excited to, you know, continue with the program, get those funds spent, and then, you know, figure out what the future holds for that. So yeah, that's that. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them out, or you can always email me or whatever.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I have one thing that I forgot to say during the staff update part of it. We had 3 people that couldn't attend today, and they told me what they would have liked to say. And then I do have one need from you after I say this. Tracy spent a lot of time last month planning, because, and I guess this isn't something she was excited about last month, but in May, she will get to do a lot of site visits. And so she's really looking forward to that field work, and flexing the knowledge that she's gained from those trainings that she did in April. Karen has been really focused on soil health and regenerative agriculture. And so she spent some time doing training sessions for those, and has gotten to actually apply some of it during assessment visits. So it's kind of similar to Tracy. She's starting to get to use those training things that she learned. And then Will, which kind of ties into Muriel, they hired or are hiring the seasonals, and they have a full crew as of today.
Yep.
Which is awesome, because sometimes that can be a challenge to get people for those positions. So, and then my need from you, I am giving that presentation the 28th, and I have a slide that says our board, and I would like a headshot from each of you if you're willing.
Can you just grab mine off LinkedIn, or do you need me to send it to you?
I can definitely, yes, I can stop you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. I have a good one of that. I have a really cute one of you that I use in my farmland preservation.
We can take photos.
Well, I was gonna say, I can take it today if you'd like, or I was gonna make you stand from the sign, but Doug's not here, so.
It ain't gonna be like the Secretary of State, right, where you stand for everything.
No, we can put you in front of the
You're
sign.
not
and
allowed
take
to
a
see.
picture.
Yeah.
Look really serious.
You don't gotta have numbers in your chest.
But that's what
No.
we need.
Handcuffs.
Photo.
Just need a nice smiling photo.
Grab mine off.
Orange jumpsuit.
Okay, thank you. That was all.
Let me know what you need. I get you all started.
Just
If you wanna, oh no, then just. we'll just
Take
do
a photo of him
selfie.
today.
Sure,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Oh, boy. It might be my first. Yeah, all right, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're up to Human Resource Committee. Report.
So am I doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. We met. We discussed things. No, we talked about, our focus was on the, grant, writing up a grant policy. And so we had a good discussion on what that could look like and be a very functional document. And Natalie's working on that right now to get back for review, kind of like almost like a flow chart, a decision-making chart. Is it this? Is it that? If yes, you do this. If not, you do that, and that kind of thing. So that was the concept that we had. So she's working on that. And then what else did we discuss? We discussed,
Review of policies, what policies need
Yes.
to be adjusted or changed.
in that, and we didn't, grant policy was the only one that we really focused on. So just kind of doing an overview of what else might need work. And then we talked about committees, didn't we? Did we discuss advisory again? Was that what we did? Which one did we discuss?
We kind of went through and looked at the committee descriptions and if we're actually utilizing those descriptions, and discovered that some things that are in our policy manual under HR are currently being done by finance and vice versa, and that the legislative committee is not really meeting or functioning. And so just kind of had some discussion about what some good committee structure might look like. We kind of have some homework assignments to look at other committee policies that exist, checking with some other conservation districts to see how they operate. And then once we gather that data, we'll meet again and then make recommendations to the board about what that could look like.
I just felt overall we were kind of committee heavy for it. No, that's a lot of pairs of two ferreting around doing. That's just my overall feeling on that. So yeah, reviewing. what's
Now that the
necessary.
layout of the board is different, I'm sure a lot of the committees are not needed.
Yes. So there's always the option to form a committee, but you don't have to. have a committee. Just because you can have one doesn't mean you have to. You can have the ability in policy to form one, just
They
like
helped
any
us
other
move-
board.
They helped us move forward in the past.
Yes.
Mired in the muck.
And Becky discussed the possibility of having some additional work groups that I thought was a great idea. Because sometimes we need to dive deeper onto a topic, and it would be great for the whole board to be involved, but we don't necessarily have to have motions or vote on things. So creating potentially work group meetings that would just involve the entire board to work through some of the things that committees are working.
That's like a work session. What the
I believe
commissioners would do.
The finance committee has been talking about that with monies that we've used in the past for going to conferences. Over the last year or two, we've had like Pam's title, Pam from up north. She come in and talked about board responsibilities, and Pam, I'm at a loss for her name,
I know.
blonde haired, older.
Yeah, I know what you're talking.
But yes, good idea. I mean, we've talked about using, instead of traveling to bring the knowledge here, and then we can all get in on it. So I think you're on the right path. Great. And you just said strike team
Yeah,
agreement?
work agreements, there should be a parentheses vote. They should be in your packets, the work agreements.
And we need to vote on them, correct?
Yep. Yeah, there should be a parentheses vote, and I left it, I didn't, it was a mistake. Yeah.
So, did everybody get a chance to look at the strike team agreements? I mean, it's kind of boilerplate, right?
Yep, they're the same. The SISMA grants can afford to pay them 16 an hour this year, which is excellent. in comparison to previous years. And these are the technicians that will come just do the seasonal aquatic and terrestrial invasive species treatments.
Is there a motion of that? Could I get a motion so that we could?
Make that motion to approve the work agreement for the strike team.
Support.
Any discussion? Tim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rivka?
Yeah.
Becky? All right, hire
Hmm.
them. Or pay them, whichever.
Higher, they are in your folder to sign. And there will be one more, but we just gave it to him today, so we don't have it in the blue folder.
Okay. We'll do all the signing before I leave. How's that?
Perfect.
Finance committee. We didn't have one this month. We had one prior to last meeting. Trying to get what I've done here in the last month.
We met before this meeting. There you go. Before Doug left for his work trip.
Okay, I thought we did. And there's really nothing hugely in that. Am I missing anything as far as just it was kind of day-to-day stuff, correct?
So we did have some things that we discussed, that are no longer viable. We have, and we'll go through it in a minute, but we have the cash flow document, as you guys are familiar with, which helps us predict, our reimbursements and stuff like that. Looking at July, the first month of the quarter always seemed to be kind of tight, and it was a little bit, it was looking very stressful. We discussed in that meeting taking out a line of credit, not that we were doing it, just exploring the option because we need to know what our options are. However, upon exploring the option, it appears that a government entity can't do that. So that is no longer a viable option. However, we did it. So let me back up. Like a month ago or 2 months ago, we did an advance for one of our SISMA grants, which it was for chemical, which is like a $50,000 purchase. So we advanced the money, so we have it in the bank and we can just purchase it, and it's not a big deal for the district. When you do your next reimbursement, you have to show that you spent that money before you get paid, right? And they will subtract that from your total reimbursement because they already paid it to you. However, the state made a mistake and they paid us the whole reimbursement total. So they basically provided us with $50,000 extra dollars. I spoke with them. They said that they would like us to treat it as an advance, basically as if our advance is not fulfilled, and just keep the money. So now with that in mind, and with our June reimbursements entered in, because I have that information now that the first week of the month is over, our July is looking a lot less stressful, and should not be, we should not need to explore that option anyway. So, just something that you guys should all be aware of.
Thanks to the state for making a mistake.
Yeah.
Yep. In your
It's
favor.
kind of serendipitous that that's going to solve the issue. It gives us, what, maybe a year until the next super ouchie time financially to
Yep.
figure out how we
How to come up with
develop our own line of credit.
Or
What about the
something.
other districts that said that they do use a line of credit? Was there a rule
So,
change, or do they have?
yeah, I did look into that. There was a rules change a little while back, so there previously was some ability to do that. Now, the only way that you can get a line of credit for capital investments, but not day-to-day operations. So if you wanted to go get a line of credit to buy a building or a car or any other kind of capital investment, you can do that.
So that's a loan essentially.
Exactly.
So there's no operating capital.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I did chase that bunny trail down, and like way in the past, that was the thing. It's not, so.
How's our savings?
We have not had that discussion of how much to put in monthly. the finance committee meeting. I kind of think that was before I found out about.
We had discussed that and we were tight on money.
Mhm.
So we said we were gonna come back in 90 days and look at what and how much. When and how much we could put in, again, after this.
So can we use part of that 50 to start funding it?
Yeah,
No, the answer is no.
yeah, I don't know what the technical right answer is to that, but I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, we did, during the HR committee, talking about the committee stuff too. That was one of the things we talked about as far as, marketing, donations, really like the long-term solution at this point, without a line of credit being on the table, is some kind of capital campaign for us to have a dedicated fundraising, program to raise that funds that would be in a rainy fund. So that's kind of
Well, if
most likely the
you
next
can't have a line of credit, you gotta create your own line of credit, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And to create your own line of credit, you gotta increase the funding or you gotta decrease expenses,
Yeah.
I
or
think
both.
I did meet with Grand Traverse Conservation District, who is renowned for their donation and fundraising campaigns. And he gave me some really good starting ideas. I have one more meeting I want to do with some people like Joe Bush and Kelly Gower, who do a lot of that kind of work. And then I'm hoping to have a fundraising committee meeting that the staff has formed a committee. So that's my plan for the current moment.
Plus, since we got that $1 million, it is at least a advance, so that should hopefully help month to month, right?
Yep, that will help with cash flow. However, I'm planning on making a document that tracks what is in our bank account versus what we have advanced, so that we are very careful to use our funding appropriately and not dig into something that is meant for a different project.
I will say to that too, if we're gonna be getting all of that funding up front, we should really evaluate where we put that money and how to use it to earn interest. Because, even right now, I know that's something that I notice on the bank statements or on the financials every month, is that we're basically making no interest. And the cash is just going in and out too fast to make it make sense. But if we have a sizable amount of money that we can put into a CD or some other incredibly safe investment, that amount of money will earn a lot of interest.
It's been a lot of years since we've had this problem. So, yeah, I mean, they were all great questions.
So are we gonna be stewards of that funding, the entire amount is gonna come to the district? And
it will be quarterly, yep,
In
quarterly payment.
So the first payment will be like 240,000.
okay, so, all right, I just want to make sure, because
Yeah.
so that won't be a sizable balance to really.
I don't know, I
do
mean,
a
we
lot.
have,
We're
But
drawing it down.
theoretically, 200 of that is for the equipment itself, and the goal was to purchase that
Right.
as soon as possible after the start date. We're looking at getting the monitoring buoys, the sounds. So I mean, theoretically, if our budgets are accurate, yes, we'll be getting a very large deposit, but most of that will be spent relatively shortly after.
even a $50,000 investment though, and even like 2 months a year, I mean, interest rates are good. So like at MACD, I think in the last quarter, we made $202,000 on our interest. And it's all prepaid, like grants that pay.
Basically, as the finance committee has kind of chatted about this I mean, we haven't, this money has just come to us in the last, 10 to 20 days. So we've been gonna get this for the last year and a half, so we were waiting until the check cleared the bank.
Well,
So
and a couple of years ago too, interest rates were like
Don't.
putting a 30-day CD didn't
didn't
matter.
make it
Now
move the needle.
it is a different story. So at least for the time being, until that changes.
Like I said, I mean, a lot of things have changed with, with this shot in the arm. So I mean, there's a whole new set of problems that we have to do.
Opportunities.
Happily deal with.
Opportunities.
March bank reconciliations. We all had a chance to look at your financial packet. Is there anything that jumped? You're too busy reading all the reports.
They're great. Thank you. I did speak with Doug briefly, and, if you guys vote to pay the bills, I'm gonna have you be one of the signatures on the check this month.
All right. Did anybody have any questions or anything jump out at them as far as the financial payments and reconciliation of the month? If you have not, and if you don't have any questions, we will.
The only question I have is some of these are, say, deleted after them. Does that just mean that we've completely utilized the funds for that?
Can you show me?
On the profit and loss, I mean, just MISGPEFB deleted,
Yeah, it's
deleted.
it's no longer something that we're gonna be funding.
So we just completed the
So it's
grant.
removed, yeah. And that's one thing that Annalise has been working on is cleaning up some stuff that's just very old and doesn't need to be there anymore. As well as unclear transactions.
Is there a motion to pay the bills? Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there support? All right. It has been moved and supported. Any more discussion? Becky, how do you vote?
Aye.
Erica?
Yes.
Tim? Pay the bills. Any questions you want to discuss the close the door fund or the cash flow forecast?
Yeah, the close the door funds is another one, kind of like that advanced sheet I was telling you about. I kind of think the advanced sheet that I have in mind will aid this close the door fund sheet. But the idea of this sheet is basically just that it takes into account everything that we have spent and could reimburse, and then it subtracts any of our things that we owe. So like we hold a rainy day fund for the SISMA, or things that we like, or we're the fiduciary for the network, so we would owe them X amount of money. If you look in that little gray box, that's what I'm talking about, sorry. And then at the end of the day, it is that bottom line, is my understanding. But I think accounting for advances, and maybe a little bit more accurately, our reimbursements that we have out, this could be a number that you would say, this is how much we have in our bank account, but this is how much is yours at the end of the day. And I think that would be maybe a more meaningful number. So I'm working on that. And that's all. Sorry. And then if you look at the cash flow document in the back, that's that document that we were just talking about. That bottom line is how much you should have at the end of the week in your account. And the line above that is our bills, or in not our bills, but the difference for the week, based on our bills, which are the very first two top pink lines. And then all of the numbers throughout are the reimbursements we're expecting and the timing. So it's accounting for in the future.
Well, good. Thank you very much. Audit review. We took it home last month and perused it. So we need a motion to accept and approve T3 audit.
Did the auditor have any comments on how the cash flow works I read his management letter and I read through his notes and there wasn't anything, there's no comment on, how we manage the cash flow. It's problematic for you and for staff to manage, but the auditor doesn't seem to think, there's nothing materially wrong with how we're doing any of that.
Correct.
Did you discuss that at all? He
No.
recognizes what's happening and there's no issue with it from a solvency or, working with grantors or anything?
No, they did not provide me with a list of things to reconcile or remediation. Everything that they requested of us, we gave in full and it was correct with the records. And so I think maybe that's why. But that has been, thank you for saying that, because that's something I've been meaning to do, is reach out and ask questions like that. So, but no, to answer your question, they did not give us any information.
I was just curious.
No, it's a good question, I think.
I'm figuring they just kind of had pity on us this year with all the new people and the exiting people and and we kept it as precise and was able to give them everything they asked for. I think they were probably impressed with all the shuffling and card player, the whole, everything, all the balls in the air.
She's a freaking magician.
Yeah, so I will say that as far as a kudos for the team for holding it all together. So making it look
And
flawlessly.
I will
and
point out
effortless.
that they call us a board of trustees, not a board of directors.
I'm correct.
Did not.
They can call us whatever they want.
As long as they give us a clean audit.
How about that motion on the audit? Support? Rivka, how do you vote?
Yep.
Tim?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Now we're up to the fun tree sale.
Yeah, so I already told you a ton of metrics about it, and like what we sold, but our profit and loss is the last page here for you. I think it's the last page of mine. I hope it's the last in yours. And it looks like the bottom line was around that we made $15,000-ish, which is pretty on par with what we did last year. However, we've sold more trees since this has been run, so it's likely a little bit more than that, which is really good news for, like you were just saying, the turnover that we've had at the timing. I'm very proud of everyone here.
Do we have and I was thinking about since the last time we talked, do we have a running number of county conservation has sold or been responsible for
Yes.
10,000 trees or 1,000,000 trees or, that, would be kind of an interesting.
Over time or?
Total? Yeah,
Oh,
depends
yeah.
how.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
but over the last 5 years, we've done X or, that type of thing. Again, it's more of a brag and boasting number than a real,
Yeah.
I love that.
Could look back at all
I mean-
the invoices.
I'm not,
Even annual reports, we put in those.
Okay.
So.
cause that's what I always think of is, yeah, we made some money, but we're the conservation district, our goal is to, get people to plant trees and, grasses and waterways and such. And that's
Did you share how many trees was it this year?
No, I did not.
Can look that up if you're interested.
can you say?
I can.
Our pre-order inventory, so before the sale and for actually day of sale. So up until the day of, all through the day of sale, we sold, 15,000 minus 47? That many.
11,000.
15, minus 4,700. So up through the tree sale, we sold about 10,350. And then for our post-tree sale inventory, we've sold or donated approximately 585 minus 2,470, another 2,000, a little over 2,000. So about 12, a little over 12,000 trees sold and or donated so far this year.
Nice.
So.
Alrighty. Policy updates, we kind of touched on
Yeah,
it a
we
little bit.
kind of did that already, really. We don't have
Alright.
anything else to add. I don't think.
Grants. Interim team.
Yeah, we are not in preparation, we're not preparing any at the moment. We're still waiting to hear on the LSR grant. We were the first in the state ranked. They still have not told us if we got it or not. We can proudly say we got the water quality monitoring, however, it's not in executing because we just found out today.
That's Ben's little,
That's
just,
just
Yeah,
that
not a big
smaller,
Yeah.
Easily $1
smaller
million.
stream, yep. Yeah, the Water Council grant in the Midwest Glacial Lakes, we are also still waiting to hear on, correct?
Midwest Glacial Lakes, I did get a confirmation a couple days ago that we did not get that one, unfortunately. Which I'm fine with, actually. It's gonna be a little busy.
Got stuff to do. And then, like I said, in my update, we were working on executing that Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant for HWA treatments. As well as they received the volunteer stream monitoring funds, that smaller grant to try to build a volunteer program. Actually, I also just remembered we are preparing a grant. And it's one of those last minute ones where last week they found out how to apply, and like the pre-proposal is due Friday, so like a week kind of situation. And that one, Muriel, do you want to talk about it or you want me to share?
Sure, yeah, the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation has a community impact grant, and we could apply for the environmental category. The grant funding would be to do retreatments for Hemlock woolly adelgid on 3 potentially city properties: Duncan's Woods, Mulligan Hollow, and Lake Forest Cemetery. So I'm working with some people from the city to figure out what that would look like and get that proposal together.
Which was kind of cool in full circle because our SISMA was the entity that treated it in the first place. So
that was like 5 years ago. The trees need.
let's do it again.
it's time to do it again.
It's everything in there, right? Executing your Great Lakes.
I want to comment too, that grant is nice. We've been looking at community foundations a little while because their grants are typically advanced as well. So we've been trying to look at options that are not all reimbursement based. So that should be nice if we did that.
And it's not expanding their program at all. It is maintaining.
Wow, we made record time this evening. That brings us down to our 2-minute board updates. Becky, you got anything you want to talk about for 2 minutes? That pertains to the board? Come on, give me the leash.
I have a whole lot.
Oh, you don't have
I
to, I
did
just-
Call the elusive Paul Schroeder, I don't know how you say his name, Schroeder, yeah, and visited him about the Region 7 summer meeting. And we can't have it until after July 10 because he apparently builds all the roads for Electric Forest. So he'll be very busy and all that. And he offered to take me out on a golf cart and take me through the Electric Forest. I'm like, all right, I'm in. So we'll be planning Region 7 meeting.
In Electric Forest.
In Electric Forest. Yep. So it'll be later in the summer. It'll be in Muskegon somewhere. He's gonna find a location. I'll probably find us. We did do that. Rivka and I met with Senator Victory and Representative Meerman last week or 2 weeks ago, discussed the whole NEEP situation. That's continuing to evolve. I think there's gonna have to be some compromise there, which is just how things go. So those are the board related items. And I guess just while I have the floor, I am the finance committee, but because there is new structure to the board and because we've secured that $1 million funding that stabilizes things a little bit, Natalie's doing some homework on capital campaigns, and I have some awareness of some things that are, that we could at least explore in the county. I think maybe we need to take a one of these work group type of efforts to figure out how we can aggressively work towards self-funding some sort of a revolving loan fund that will really, really support sustainability and reduce heartburn and stress and gray hair from having to keep all these spreadsheets to know that we're not gonna trip and have paychecks bounce. Not that you guys haven't been doing that, but I think we're maybe in a better position to do some brainstorming
Well, like I
on
said,
that
this opens up a whole.
and kind
whole
of
new
set up a
book for
whole,
you.
you know, kind of a strategy and like a reasonable window. I don't know what a reasonable number is. I would hope not more than 3 to 5 years to get to like a pretty lofty goal, maybe 1 to 3 to like a minimum goal. I don't know, but I'm just putting that out there. And I think, you know, that can be like a full court, couple of brainstorming sessions, you know, just kind of pull all of this brain power together to figure out 2 or 3 ways we could maybe start working towards that. And it
We
might
can
be
do
very
that the second rain day of next month, right?
The second rain day of next month?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your reading next week? Sure. So those are my
Yes,
things.
and give me half an idea. Do we need to tackle this in 60 days? In
I
120
think we
days?
should begin in 60
30
days.
days? I mean, what is the board's thoughts on the urgency of said idea?
Personally, I think the sooner we start planning, the better, especially right now where we're not in a stress for funds position. All of us are really busy, and so starting earlier and spreading it out over a longer period of time is gonna stress us all out less and get it to a better result. But I think, you know, having that rainy day fund that, you know, I know is a priority for everybody is just gonna relieve a lot of stress and I think we're totally capable of doing it. I mean, this is one of the things that I've been wanting to sink my teeth into since day one, and it hasn't really been feasible for a whole host of reasons. So I think, you know, now is good time.
What time of the day, year, month works as far as having a board session like that? Do we do it in late, do we come in and do a bare bones meeting and then, you know, dive into something like this? Is it something we do above and beyond?
Brats on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, right.
Again, the second rain day.
I mean, I feel like I have the most flexibility of any view, so it's really, for me, it's not a particular day and time, it's just advance notice. So that I can get out.
Sam? Yeah.
I mean, we're,
Thursday of next week would be great.
I mean, we're, actually, I know this is the time.
Nothing before summer conference.
I'm with Kim going, ooh, okay,
Yeah, you
so
guys are just.
that's why I'm asking these questions, just so that we could,
And you
just so that we could.
be more on the ideating side, because I know you guys are getting to your busier season right now, you know, we can, you know, maybe hit a couple of brainstorming sessions hard, and then the rest of us maybe can do some legwork and then regroup with brainstorming, but.
You know, and I'm not sure if we can do a couple of the initial ones, I'm gonna say either online, maybe we throw out 6, 8 questions, you know, and then do the homework on them. And then kind of come back and, you know, so we don't have to sit here and, you know, work for 20 minutes to an hour and go, oh, you know, we gotta go check on, you know, these 3 things before we can really move forward.
Well,
So
we definitely shouldn't do
Let's-
it here. We should do it at a much more inspiring location.
inspiring
Say
location.
this room isn't inspiring?
Other than the
Jimmy
people in
Plant.
it, that's the inspiring part of it.
So like I say, let's just talk about this over the next,
Okay.
I'm
Get
gonna
some
say
ideas out there.
30 days.
No.
And then, like I say, cause, you know, I'm not nearly as hard up as Tim, you know, with what the next 120 days brings to our world.
Yeah.
So I know that there's not a whole bunch of extra time in Tim's world. Theoretically, mine seems like, I didn't think I was that busy, but it's been a long one. It's springtime again. So.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, I just, you know, wanna be conscious of everybody's time and like I say, maybe we can talk about a few things. Get a few questions out there. I mean, just start the process. So
Great idea.
let's, like I say, maybe we do that either online or something.
Online, like
Instead
you
of-
check your email.
I check my texts.
If you text him, you check.
I'll
his
do
email.
it for you. There's so many Zoom meetings all day.
I have people for that. It's like,
It's fine.
you need to get in there and look at.
I'll do it for you.
All right. So with that, like I say, with that said, that's why I guess I asked the questions as far as that. Yes, I know that's here now. I know that it is urgent, but in the essence of everybody's time, that's what I was just trying to get the feel of. So that everybody knows kind of what's expected of them over the next coming months. So we'll try to either finance committee or, like I say, let's talk here in the next week or so and then try to make a effort on how we're gonna move into that.
Okay.
Cool. Good, you got anything?
Always. So MACD is working on applying for a grazing lands grant for $1 million over 3 years with NRCS. Our current proposal is for 3 FTEs that would cover a service area, one of which would include Ottawa County. So if we're successful in that grant proposal, then Ottawa County will have access to a grazing lands professional to help provide support to our other programs without having to add any capacity here or make any space here. So we're working on that. That's one of the things overall that I'm working on at MACD is identifying opportunities for cooperative agreements and grant agreements between conservation districts so we can go after bigger and better funding pools for all the conservation districts throughout the state. And then of course, like summer conference, early registration ends tomorrow. Doesn't mean you can't buy tickets after that. They're just more. I would just make an appeal. I know everybody's busy. Everybody has 500 million things going on. Even if you can't come to the full conference, one of the things that we added this year was just having the legislative luncheon only. So if you can only drive to Lansing, have lunch. We have a lot of legislators signed up to be there. So it's a really unique opportunity to network with our legislative body as a whole, all in one place at one time. We have people sharing from various different programs within conservation on some of the bigger picture things that are moving forward. And it's just will be a good opportunity for us to all show up and show off what we're doing. I'd love for us to brag about our new $1 million in funding. So, if at all possible, if you can make the time to come to Lansing, have lunch, it would be really meaningful. The more people that we have there, particularly directors, it sends a really strong message to Lansing. I mean, one of the reasons that this whole budget conversation and meat conversation has been what it is because there's kind of this belief in Lansing that directors aren't engaged and aren't equipped to move conservation forward. And I think, the best way for us to prove them wrong is to show up and just have the conversations and say, I'm a director, here's why I do what I do, and that they know that we have amazing people like all of you driving this ship. So that's my 2 cents for today. So.
Jim.